to stay with us here on The Pulse. This afternoon, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, CHRAJ, has barred the former Commissioner-General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Dr. Amishadai Owusu-Amoah, from holding any public office for 5 years and recommended his prosecution for corruption, fraud and procurement breaches that caused a financial loss of close to 9 million Ghana cedis to the state. The ruling follows a 2022 petition by the Movement for Truth and Accountability, which accused Dr. Owusu-Amoah of irregular procurement practices in vehicle and logistic contracts awarded to Renault Motors Limited, Sajel Motors and Trading Company Limited, and Telenor Ghana Limited. CHRAJ found that the GRA, under his leadership, misled the Public Procurement Authority into providing single-source contracts worth millions of cedis in breach of the Public Procurement Act. Now, it also discovers that two of the companies, Sajel Motors and Telenor Ghana, had no verifiable offices and were not tax compliant and fraudulently subcontracted to Renault Motors for the same vehicles. Now, the Commission concluded that the contracts were tainted with fraud and corruption. And that's a report that we have gotten here on the JoyNews channel. 157 pages, really. And my colleague, key member of our research desk here at JoyNews, Isaac Kofi, joins me in the studio just as we break down the specifics. It's quite a number of pages, Kofi. I know you've been combing through all of them, but what exactly are their findings?
Firstly, if we look at this particular case, it has traveled for 3 years, 2 months and 21 days. And in fact, if you look at the findings of CHRAJ, at a point, the petitioners went to CHRAJ and said that they wanted to withdraw the case. They didn't want to continue anymore. As CHRAJ said, they had every reason to go ahead because at that point, they were advanced in the investigation. They had spoken to the petitioners and they had gathered information that they felt that going ahead with the investigation could actually yield a certain outcome. And today, the report is, painting that picture that there was some, financial loss to the state as far as this, investigation is concerned. So I'm going to go through the key findings as captured in the report. And just like you said, this was a contract that was awarded on the 1st of October 2021. And according to according to CHRAJ's report, the GRA employed, and I quote, the single source procurement method in the award of the said contract, contrary to the claims of the allegation that the authority deployed the restrictive tender method. So here, CHRAJ is saying that there was a sole source instead of what the authority said they did, the restricted tender method. And that was one of the key findings of CHRAJ. And so the method involved, there was some contradiction in terms of what the authorities had told CHRAJ and what CHRAJ's own investigation had pointed out to. And in fact, quote, the respondent here, CHRAJ means the former boss of the GRA, Reverend Amishadai Owusu, misled the PPA in approving the request of the GRA to award the contract to the said companies using single source procurement method in dubious circumstances. And according to, CHRAJ, the award of the contract was in breach of some provisions of the Public Procurement Act 2003, Act 663, as amended. And CHRAJ says that, that the companies involved were unable to duly fulfill their contractual, obligations simply because they did not possess the requisite capacity to carry out the contract of such magnitude, and not because of the disruptions in the supply chain owing to the COVID-19. So just like you said, CHRAJ is saying that the companies that were contracted by GRA did not have what it takes to actually go ahead with the contract, and they had to bring in a third party to actually go ahead with this contract. And point 6 of the summary says that the two of the companies, Telino Limited and Sajal Motors in fraudulent circumstances entered into separate contract with Renault Motors for the supply of the same vehicles to GRA. And the report also says that the prices of vehicles procured from Renault Motors Limited were inflated, having regards to the specification of the vehicles and the fact of their bulk purchases compared to the competitive prices of the vehicles at other firms, notably Toyota Ghana Limited. So they had to do some form of comparative analysis, and what they realized was that the vehicles that were procured by this Renault Motors were relatively higher than what was available in the market per their investigation and comparative analysis they had to do with companies like Toyota Ghana Limited. And according to the GRA, they say that both Sajal Motors and Trading Company Limited, the Telino Ghana Limited, had no physical location and could not be traced, just like you said, addresses provided by them in all their correspondence at the time of the contract. So simply, according to CHRAJ, the addresses provided by these two companies, in fact, when they traced to actually get to that physical location, they went there and they could not find these two companies.
Non-existent.
Exactly. And in fact, this is where it gets, a bit, should I say, interesting in terms of the findings, according to CHRAJ. It says that the contract for the award and the supply of vehicles and logistics to GRA was tainted with fraud and corruption, that the respondents here, Reverend Amishadai, being the entity head, cannot escape liability as he supervised its execution. So what we are seeing in this report is that CHRAJ was not able to establish, what we call, direct personal benefit. But CHRAJ is saying, so long as Reverend Amishadai was the boss of GRA and was the one that supervised that contract, he cannot take himself out of this equation. That is why he's actually at the forefront of this whole investigation. This is where the figures start to trickle in. It says that the action of the respondent caused financial loss to the state in a sum. Remember that this amount that we are looking at first, the actual amount is in dollars. CHRAJ had to do the conversion into cedis. That's why we saw the cedi conversion. But the dollar amount is about $826,551, $826,551, dollars. That is what CHRAJ is saying. And when they did their conversion, CHRAJ is saying that this cedi equivalent is close to about 8.97 million, Ghana cedis in terms of the financial loss that they believe that GRA, looking at the supervision of Amishadai, has actually caused to the state. So what we are saying is that, or what the report is saying is that two of the companies, when they had to trace their addresses that they actually provided under the contract, when they went to the physical grounds, they could not find the companies. And that there were also two companies, the first companies that were contracted, they did not have the capacity to actually go ahead with this contract. So they had to rely on a third party to do the procurement on their behalf. And as a result of that, it led to the inflation of the procurement of these vehicles and other things that GRA actually contracted them to do. And they said that because of this instance, the state lost close about 9 million Ghana cedis in terms of this whole deal.
And then what exactly are their recommendations moving forward? Because I know that key among them, they have barred him from holding any public office for the next 5 years. What else? So
there were some decisions that were taken by CHRAJ, and we have to walk through them one by one. And CHRAJ says that based on the above, findings, they hereby decide as follows. It says that one, quote, that the respondents here, Reverend Amishadai, be disqualified from holding any public office for the period of 5 years from the date of this decision. This is because the statutory breaches were committed under his watch. So this is the reason that it was committed under his watch. So it's a leadership problem they're concerned about. Absolutely. And it says that as the head of the entity of the GRA, the respondent was responsible and accountable under the Section 17 of the Act 633 as amended for actions taken and for instructions as regards the implementation of this act. And so because he was the boss, he was the one at the helm of affairs, he is actually being brought into this equation and being made to lead this whole issue, and says that he has to be barred for a period of 5 years, starting from the date that this report was actually issued. 2 says that considering that the acts of corruption, fraud, and causing financial loss to the state are offences under the Criminal Offences Act 1960, Act 29, the Commission is referring the respondents and the directors of the 3 companies. So here it's not just Reverend Amishadai who is being referred to for prosecution, but also respondents of the 3 directors of the companies to the Attorney General for possible prosecution. And the key word here is possible prosecution. And recovery. Very important. The CHRAJ says that recovery of the sum of 26,551 Ghana cedis for the states or to the states. And it says that the Commission also requests the Board of the Public Procurement Authority, PPA, as the governing body of the PPA, acting under Section 3 of the Act 633 as amended, to debar and impugn companies, that is Sajel Motors and Telino Ghana Limited, from doing any business with the states and its international agencies for the colours, misrepresentation that companies made to the GRA to put them in good state to win those contracts. So technically, what CHRAJ is saying that these 3 companies that have been captured under this investigation, they have actually banned them from doing any form of business with the state. So no state agency should do business with these 3 companies as captured, by the report. And it's finally, it says that it is recommended that PPA board takes the proactive approach to all times and also cases by insisting on strict enforcement of procurement regulation, that's the 2022 one, which have now been passed to reinforce guidelines on single source procurement issues by the PPA. So because this whole deal went through a single source approach, CHRAJ is telling PPA to strengthen the act, and then also the safeguards that have been provided under the new amendment and a new act, to make sure that something of this nature doesn't happen again. But the most important thing is that CHRAJ is saying, well, Amishadai must not hold any public office for the next 5 years. 2, the 3 companies involved, PPA should not do any government business with them, starting the release of this, the release date of this report.
Thank you so much, Kofi. And then we're just looking at the key findings of this report. You can find it on myjoyonline.com, 157 pages long, just detailing the work of CHRAJ and some of the key findings they have made. And this afternoon, investigations are underway to ascertain the cause of the collapse of a 3-story building at Klagon in the Tema West municipality following the injury of a mother and her 2 children. Rescue teams are currently sifting through the rubble to establish if anyone else is trapped under it. My colleague Fatal Bayaga has spent the whole morning monitoring rescue efforts, and he joins us live from the grounds with updates on this. Fatal, just walk us through some of the key things that has happened so far and where we are as we speak.
Principal Chief Executive for the Tema West Municipal Assembly, right here with me. Honorable, thank you very much. You're live on Joy News. Talk to me about this situation. When you got here, what have you picked so far?
So we got here in the early hours of the day as I got a distress call from the assembly member for the electoral area. When we came, we initially assessed what the situation was. We asked around if there could be anyone trapped under. We spoke with the immediate neighbor who has been affected heavily. As you well know, his wife and then the their child got injured, but they are responding to treatment. Actually, the wife just came, but the son is also relaxing in there. There's a little bit of trauma involved, you know. They were asleep when it happened, somewhere around 4 a.m. So the little one is a little traumatized, but with time, hopefully it will get well.
But based on your preliminary checks, what might have led to this particular collapse?
So I would immediately put it at supervision. So the developer actually made an application to the assembly, but didn't follow through to get the requisite permit. He has been cautioned by our task force to stop work and come to the assembly and has refused. So I would say the initial investigations from the engineer shows that some of the quality of work that has to go into this, looking at the bricks, it didn't go in there.
But did you do a follow-up when you asked him to come to the assembly?
So he was cautioned for 2 weeks. We are still in the 2 weeks duration. It has not elapsed yet before this happened. Actually, a couple of days ago, someone made a complaint about this particular building. So there was a follow-up that was made, but because his time frame had not elapsed, we were waiting on him because he had actually traveled. He's in Kumasi as we speak. To put into right perspective, he is actually managing it for the owner. So he is in Kumasi, but the owner is not within the jurisdiction. She's traveled outside of the country. Yes.
Thank you very much, Honorable.
You heard that my colleague Fatal Bayaga just engaging key officials on the grounds. And let me bring in now the Municipal Chief Executive for Tema West, Ludwig Tay Totime. We appreciate your time here on the Pulse. I also have with me Maxwell Emmanuel Nibe. He's Director of Man-Made Disaster at NADMO Headquarters. We appreciate your time, gentlemen. Let me start with the MC for Tema West. Now, based on your findings, this developer didn't have a permit to erect this building, and you looked on as he continued his work. How do you defend that, really?
Well, thank you very much. Saying we looked on might be a little harsh. Like I stated earlier on in your interview, in the earlier interview, we had cautioned him. He was supposed to have appeared before us, even before the other complaint was followed. He has been asked to stop work. We got a couple of days ago, we got a call that they have brought in some materials. That's when we followed up with a call that he was supposed to have reported, and we heard he has brought some more materials to the site. So that's where we were till we got this unfortunate news.
And what are you doing moving forward, really, to ensure incidents like this do not reoccur?
Well, so we will, effective immediately, we will increase our monitoring. The enforcement will be much harsher than just initial caution. Once you begin any development without permit, you should be sure that the full arm of the municipal will come at you. So it's just a caution out there to any developer within the Tema West municipality. Get the requisite permit before you start any form of development so that we can avoid mishaps like these.
And as leadership, really, as authority, I'm sure you're concerned about this. Have you invited the developer? Will you be cracking the whip?
The developer is on his way to Accra as we speak. As I indicated in the earlier interview, he is more of a caretaker for the main developer who is not within the country as we speak. So he's on his way, that's Mr. Fosu, is on his way from Kumasi to Accra.
And so will you be taking this up with the police so that we can see that the developer is actually sanctioned for some of these activities, especially because you just tell us that he didn't have permit to erect the structure?
Yes, so in the initial hours, the police were fully represented, the fire, all the needed security personnel were here. So a formal complaint has been laid to them, but we will follow through with all the sanctions that has to be meted out to the developer. And that I can assure the residents and everyone within the Tema West municipality. We will not sleep on this. We are going to take very, very strict measures against the developer and against anyone who is developing without permits.
And what are the likely sanctions we're to see in coming days?
It could move from penalty units by way of making payments for the distraction that has been that's happened, and it could go all the way to imprisonment.
And we hear that a woman and her 2 children were injured. What's the story behind that, really? And how are they faring as we speak?
Well, so they've been discharged as we speak. In the morning, they were taken to the clinic just at Klagon. Then later, they were transferred to AIMA, that's the Maritime Hospital. They have been treated and discharged as we speak now. The lady left here not too long ago, so they've gone to the home of the husband's mom. So they are there as we speak now.
And who is bearing the cost of their medical treatment?
So the municipal will bear the initial cost, but eventually the whole cost will be transferred to the developer.
Thank you so much, Ludwig Tay. He is the MC for Tema West. Let me bring in Maxwell Emmanuel Nibe. He's Director of Man-Made Disaster at NADMO headquarters. We appreciate your time here on the Pulse. Based on your initial findings, what exactly led to the collapse of this structure?
Yeah, good afternoon, and good afternoon to my colleague MC, who was there with this whole day. Back to the office to discuss and give our report to our Director General. But the initial report that we got a distress call from our in Tema West about the information of the collapse. We got there, the MC was already there. We had some discussions. They brought in excavators to collect the debris. But the initial finding is that you see that the integrity of the building was not done. Just like what the MC have said, we discussed it, and it was clear that no permit was acquired for such a structure to be built. And then we inspected around, and then we saw that in collapsing, the building collapsing, the debris went into an adjoining house that was just behind, where a woman was lying there sleeping with 2 other children who were injured. And like he said, they were taken to the hospital. We went with the MC and the MP to the hospital. Unfortunately for us, she was fine and discharged, but we insisted that she does some tests, and the MC have taken charge of paying, but to charge the developer for any cost that will be done. And then we discussed that there is the need for some processes, if the need be for a court process will be taken on to at least to serve as a deterrent to other developers there.
And in recent times, you've been dealing with a lot of collapsed structures. Is there a reason why, based on your findings, this is happening? And how is NADMO dealing with this moving forward?
I think most of the developers would do it in the night. We've just also spotted an adjoining building that was just adjacent to the building. That also have an integrity issue, which is hosting students in the building. We've instructed the municipal chief executive to immediately cordon off the area and stop anybody from being accommodated in the facility, and let the integrity test be done on the building, such that we are sure that this building will not collapse one day on the 12th. So if we go there now, they are vacating the building, and we are going to invite the owner of the building for him to be surcharged for any other work that will be done, the inspection of the building, all those things. Because if we don't do it, like you said, there's a lot of issues that are happening. They don't get the appropriate permissions. They buy a 2-story building or a 1-story building. Then they decide to add on. And when they are adding on, they do it in the night when everybody is sleeping, they are constructing. And you can just imagine, with that collapsed building, all is just when you get to the scene, there's no concrete work there. Everything is sand. And that tells you the kind of shadow work that is done on the site.
And this is quite worrying moving forward. I'm quite interested in how you plan to work with, especially the municipality, for different constituencies to ensure that some of these issues don't reoccur.
Yeah, we're taking it up. We'll be working in collaboration with everybody, including you, the media, that will come on board. Because sometimes when you deal with this and they don't put light on it, people still do it. But for example, if this structure was put in the light and then it was broadcasted in the news, I don't think the developer would hide and go and do it anyway. So we think that this time around we should bring in the media, go and expose these buildings to the public, and then instructions will be given. And when the public know that this building have integrity issue, they don't get close to it. And possibly all the authorities that need be will give us the power so that these buildings are pulled down before they become a disaster for all of us to run to.
Thank you so much, Maxwell, for your time here on Joy News. Let me just wrap up with the MCE for Tema West. We've just been hearing from NADMO tell us that there's another structure within the same vicinity that they suspect may have structural integrity issues. As the municipal chief executive, what are you doing to ensure that incidences like this don't reoccur? You may have to unmute for me to hear you, Ludwig.
Sorry, I'm still at the site and there was some interruption. So
that's
I had
fine.
to mute.
I understand there's another structure next to this building in question, and we understand that NADMO has already raised concerns about the structural integrity of this structure. I'm wondering what you're doing as the MC for the area to ensure that another disaster do not reoccur.
Yes, so all the, if I could, I just want to give you a view of it so you see how.
Okay, we have all the time. Please show us.
Okay, so these are some of the students here. This is the building, another building that NADMO, Director for Man-Made Disaster, was talking about. And we've asked all the students to evacuate effective immediately.
Okay.
If you can see, some of the students are there. If you can see at the far end, some of the students are moving out. They just finished their exams this afternoon.
Okay.
But if you can see here too, we've written on there for them to stop work and produce permits. So already they've been cautioned, but like I'm saying, we need to take it from just caution to stricter measures, because they seem to keep continuing even after the caution. So like I'm saying, these are some of the students. So they have been asked to evacuate. So they are running, but they've been asked to evacuate. So they are all moving out as we speak immediately.
I see. And this is quite worrying because this is happening in the same vicinity. What stringent measures will you be taking to ensure that some of these cases are dealt with? Because we've seen a lot of properties where they write stop work, produce permits, and then you go and you see the construction workers still working actively. What stricter enforcement will you employ moving forward?
So, like I said earlier on, we'll be harsher than just stop work and then they come in and then they pay the permit fines, and whatever building they are doing, they leave us to now come and inspect for them to do the right thing. Now we'll move in straight and take whatever measures that we will have to take to avoid issues like these. We are not going to be negotiating with them on doing the right thing after they started the wrong thing. We are going full force to make sure they start the right thing ground up.
Thank you so much. That is Ludwig Tay. He is the Municipal Chief Executive for Tema West. I also spoke earlier to Maxwell Emmanuel Nibe, who is Director of Man-Made Disaster at NADMO. Well, away from that, let's shift our attention to politics. The opposition MPP is accusing the Mahama administration of unleashing a calculated campaign of harassment and intimidation against its members. The party's General Secretary, Justin Frimpong-Kodia, says state security agencies and sections of the judiciary have been turned into political weapons used to silence opponents and crush dissent. Justin Kodia says despite repeated warnings and protests by the NPP, government remains deaf to the calls for restraint, adding that Ghana's democracy is now being slowly poisoned by the abuse of power.
The New Patriotic Party had to cause a complaint against government-sponsored harassment and persecution of our members. The party held demonstration and numerous press conferences on matter, reminding President John Mahama and his government that we are a nation of rule of law, and asked the NDC government to put a stop on their continuous weaponization of the state security and the judiciary against political opponents. Unfortunately, all our calls have fallen on deaf ears, but as a party, we shall not back down on our resolve to fight this injustice. It is increasingly concerning that the state security agencies continue to flout with impunity the Constitution of Ghana, particularly Article 14, on the grant of bail to persons arrested or detained. Our Constitution requires that persons who are arrested or detained be brought to the court within 48 hours or be released either unconditionally or on reasonable conditions as may be necessary to ensure that they appear at a later date for their trial. Thus, an accused person who is not tried within reasonable time is entitled to bail, irrespective of the nature of the alleged offense.
Well, the party is also warning that the rule of law is under siege under President John Dramani Mahama, as the party says security agencies continue to detain its members beyond legal limits and impose punitive bail conditions. The party's General Secretary, Justin Frimpong-Kodia, says this brazen disregard of Constitution by the current administration has weaponized the justice system. He insists that under President Mahama, freedom has become conditional.
The worrying trend where members of the New Patriotic Party are detained beyond the lawful limit, subjected to unreasonable bail conditions, and effectively denied justice. This practice contravenes Section 96 of the Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act at 1960, and the Supreme Court precedents, including one in Oko versus Republic and Matipegu versus Attorney General No. 2, which affirmed that bail should not be punitive or withheld merely as a punishment, and that bail condition must not be unreasonable or onerous so as to amount to a constructive refusal to grant it. This is anchored on the constitutional principle enshrined in Article 19(2)(c) that a person accused of committing an offence shall be presumed innocent until proven guilty. However, under President John Mahama's administration, a person is rather presumed guilty until the person proves his innocence. This is a shame to our democracy, whereby that the presumption of innocence has now turned into whereby a person is presumed guilty for him or her to prove his or her innocence. We have seen how this government has conducted itself in the Rambo-style arrest and detention of members of the New Patriotic Party. Reference to Chairman Wuntumi, Edubuaye, Abdul Wahab Hanan, Gifty Oware, Osesibe, and a host of others.
Well, let's explore this further here on The Pulse. Join me now is Richard Anyama, is Director of Communications for the New Patriotic Party. We appreciate your time. Quite a number of allegations you're making this afternoon. Let's start with the one at the top. You feel the Chief Justice was unlawfully removed. You feel that the judiciary, as we speak, is being politicized. But under your administration, you face the same criticism. Did you not?
No, well, thank you very much. I'm sure you agree with everything that we raised in the press conference. The idea is that in our country now, we're all not equal before the law. Some are more equal or less equal before the law, which is not a democratic principle. We're all supposed to be equal, the president included, before the law. But the situation we have here is a clear animal farm justice that the NDC is dispensing, and we think that all Ghanaians should be incensed by it, should be angered by it, and we shouldn't tolerate it, because that is a slope towards the diminution of our democratic right, and I think we all should fight it. The concern about the Chief Justice, you know that the process was political from day one. They contrived to remove her, they removed her, and so now what that removal has done is to send chills down the spine of all that are involved in our justice delivery system in our country. They are minded, looking over their shoulders, most of them bending over backwards to please the administration. And you see, when the NDC was in opposition, they were talking about some unanimous FC. What you have now is worse, okay? Earlier it was perception, but now there are evidence to support the perception that justice delivery under His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is not justice as we know it. It's animal farm justice. Some people are more equal, some people are not equal before the law. They get a pass, other people don't. And I don't think that it's right. It is not okay for our democracy, and that's what our party is raising. We believe in the rule of law. The law must apply in all situations equal to all people. That's how you can standardize it, and that's how democracy would work in our country. But what we have now is not. With the case of Chairman Wuntumi and other key individuals that this administration is seeking to prosecute, the rule of law is taking effect. They're going through the process. They're going through the process, and by and large, with due process sacrificed. I mean, go to the beginning of the process, their arrest, detention, and the bail conditions given them. Completely unreasonable, okay? Unreasonable. You arrest someone, put a bail, I think won't be somewhere around, I think 10 million or so. But you reckon that the bail conditions are based on the magnitude of the crime that the state perceives that you may have committed? But that's not constitutional. Is that not the case? If you look at precedent, the understanding or the position of the law is that you don't use bail condition as a means to continuously detain people. The provision for bail is only to allow the person a commitment so they can show up for trial, right? And so it is supposed to be a commitment, not a means to continuously detain the people. And what you see, you give somebody, I think the Kobna Edubuahi situation, we started off all these situation was given a bail, I think, about 300 million, right? In what world do you want somebody to provide a bail condition of 300 million? You saw the issue that attended that, the difficulty in meeting that bail condition, which resulted in the individual being detained beyond the lawful 48-hour provision of the Constitution. You saw the case of Wuntumi, the same thing happened. Abdul Hanan, the Buffer Stock CEO and the wife, same thing, about 150 million, right? And I think Gifty Owari also, about 10 million Ghana cedis. And Mr. Osesibe, the CEO of NSA, 800 million.
But you recognize that the law is not respect of anybody.
Well, it is.
And so,
it is.
It is?
It is. If you wait for me to cite another example for you in this rather criminal issue to do with the NDC's MP, the MP for Asutifi North, his conduct. When you and I are concerned, and we are all worried, okay, to death about the issue of Galamsey, how it is worsened under President Mahama. And that NIMOS, which the President Mahama promised he was going to set up, has set up, and they are starting to work. And they have gone to arrest people. And an MP, I wonder if he's still sitting in MP, in Parliament now, after having done that criminal thing he did. He went and demanded, I'm coming, no, I mean, you saw the look and feel of it is criminal. It's Attorney General who's told us this, that you can come and try people on the media. That's what he's doing to everybody. And now this guy has gone to forcibly take the handcuff keys and free people who have been arrested for going against the law, for galamseying in our country.
But the Speaker said
the point is that
he's not going to shield anyone. They have subjected him to the process.
We are watching.
He has actually been... yes.
Let me just finish for you.
Just yesterday, we got to find out that he's been processed for court and granted bail.
Forget about that. I'm telling you that, so you want me to illustrate for you the same process that he is submitting other people to. Is it the same process that he's been submitted to? A guy was called and then was given a bail of how much?
We can't tell, based on the statement that we put out, that the camp of the Member of Parliament put out. Yeah. He did not specify the alleged amount for bail.
All we know is about 150,000.
All we have heard are speculation so far.
So let's go with the speculation until he proves it otherwise.
Okay.
But the police are there. You can call the police because this is a public matter. So the police should tell us why, or the authorities should tell us, why is it okay for somebody who is destroying our collective survival?
Allegedly.
What have you ever seen the Attorney General say alleged in any of these cases? He is trying people, and I'm saying that he's made it the norm. Everybody can just call anybody a criminal, okay? And the burden is on you, firstly, to prove that you are not a criminal. That's the situation we have. Now, the point here, though, is that why is he treated different? Why? What wrong? Just by being a citizen, what wrong has SCB committed such that he is given 800 million bail condition? Abdul Hanan sat in, he was detained for 2 weeks. He was detained for 2 weeks. Why? So the president has taken our constitution and turned it upside down, okay, and is looking at it sideways, applying it differently to NDC people, and the rest of us Ghanaians is applying it to us in a more punitive way, which we think that is not what he inherited. The president inherited a country where the law was working. In fact, Akufo-Addo took the burden when people in our party were criticizing him that why is it taking too long to prosecute NDC people who were deemed to have committed some corruption-related acts. He said that due process is necessary unless you are not at the receiving end of it. So even though he is supervising a process to dispense justice, he finds it necessary to go through the hard and onerous process of extending due process to everyone.
So you feel with that...
Why is President Mahama not doing the same?
So you feel with that the Asutifi North MP,
yes,
due process was not followed?
No, I mean, what is it? The extent to which these people are detained with bail conditions that makes it difficult for them to meet. So therefore, they are detained beyond the required 48 hours. That's not due process. That's not right. The idea of the the Attorney General coming to actually pronounce these people guilty before they have their day in court. That's not due process, because the Constitution suggests that you are presumed innocent until the state, okay, in this particular instance, proves you to be beyond reasonable doubt in a court of competent jurisdiction that you are guilty. Okay, but then the situation we have set up by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, somehow supervising, led by his Attorney General, is to prove you, or is to say you are guilty, and you then have to show that you are not. That's turning the order of things upside down, and that's not acceptable.
But this is accountability.
Which accountability?
Accountability to the public.
Accountability is not dispensed in a vacuum. We have rules within which you engage. That's why we have a constitution. That's our process. Otherwise, this would have been what? It would be state of nature, be a survival, self-preservation situation. No, we have rule of law. We are a country of laws. You agree, Fosti?
Yeah.
So if we are a country of laws, then those laws must work.
But I'm sure as a political party, you're worried about the conduct of some of your members that have led to some of these cases. For example, the leadership of NSS. We saw alarming rate of ghost names on payroll. Even the NSS boss herself was being paid NSS money at the time when she was a staff. You must be worried about these crimes that were perpetrated under leadership of the NPP. Are you not?
That's exactly the problem. Because you are repeating what the Attorney General has said. But that has not been tested in any court to come to a conclusion that indeed is true. It's equal to me saying, Fosti, the way I see you, you're a criminal, you have committed this murder, because I'm the Attorney General, you have done so and so, my investigation here, my investigation there says you are that. That's not what the law says.
But the AG has done extensive investigations. Are you saying we shouldn't trust the investigation?
Well, then let's just tell him to sentence them then, if that's what it says. But that's not the law. The law is aware that you can do your investigation, but it says that that evidence you have found is not fact until it's tested in court. The burden is on the state to prove beyond reasonable doubt. So now you have come to lay out your facts. And your fact is supposed to be sacrosanct? That's not how it works. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Even the NDC, most of the people under the NDC, the former Mahama administration, who were brought before the law, a lot of them, they came, they cleared them. Don't you remember that? The finance minister, was he not cleared? You see the extensive process that he went through. We're sitting here, the MP, Honorable Collins Dowda, in relation to the SAG limit, $200 million, matters relating to that. He got cleared. Even the Bank of Ghana governor, in matters related to financial issues, he got cleared. You understand that? Are you not alarmed, or are you not worried that $200 million given to build a certain affordable housing? Today, you and I, as we sit here, there is no one single affordable housing in Saglemi where anybody is living in it, but yet the money has been fully dispensed.
Under your administration, you had the authority to bring these issues to light and deal with them. You failed to do that. Now you're crying foul.
Well, that is why
now in opposition you're crying foul.
So you see here where I'm telling you that Akufo-Addo took a burden of going through, according every person who was accused of one thing or the other, due process. Due process takes time. It is meticulous. It is demanding. It puts a burden on the state with all this machinery to come with crystal clear evidence beyond reasonable doubt to prove that these people have actually misconducted themselves. It is not a day matter. But the NDC is trying to see, or they view, due process as a liability, as a problem. They are encumbered by due process. But it is how the law is supposed to be applied. Otherwise, you have a government that will abuse the rights of citizens if that burden is not put on the state, because the state machinery can be marshaled, weaponized against you. But then the law recognizes that and say that let the state have the additional burden of going through a process to prove beyond reasonable doubt that indeed what the state says you have done wrong is actually wrong. That burden, the NDC is trying to cut short. You have to go through a process. So now you are now repeating what the Attorney General has said to be fact, because he's gone to media to say that, creating the impression that the people are guilty already, which is not the case. That's not how. It doesn't lie in his mouth to pronounce anybody guilty.
But as a political party, I'm sure you're concerned about the different allegations that have been put out by the Attorney General. The OSP is looking for the man that once held the nation's purse strings, Ken Ofori-Atta. As a political party, you must be worried about this.
I mean, so here's the point we must establish. As a political party, we believe in the rule of law. We came to render a service and to serve our country. If persons appointed part of that opportunity we had to serve Ghana misconduct themselves, we have no interest in shielding them. But what concerns us is that part of our democratic process, where the rules are supposed to apply, let them apply, so that they go through the process to establish their innocence or be proven guilty. When that is allowed, everybody would know at the end of the day that yes, indeed, people were accorded the right and the opportunity to defend themselves, and at the end of the day, they fall short of proving themselves innocent. And so therefore, in a court of competent jurisdiction, if they are found guilty, all of us will. In fact, in all these cases, if at the end of the day, any of these individuals in a court room where these evidence are tested and proven beyond reasonable doubt that they have misconducted themselves in any way, the party will issue a statement to condemn that behavior. But until then, claims by the Attorney General does not constitute guilt, so that we would be worried or we will be issuing statements to support or against their conduct. The point now is that anybody can say anything about you. But the only point it becomes factual, it becomes a factor that constitutes guilt or not, is when it's examined in a courtroom. The individuals accused, not a single one of them have presented any evidence to you or I such that you can balance them and say that they have or haven't. So right now, the only information out there is the rather unfortunate conduct of the Attorney General, which he knows is unethical, to come and pronounce people and try people in the media. That's what is sinking to people's perception and people's minds now, and they think that those people are guilty. Okay? That is not for me to say that they are not or they are. The only point we can be clear in our mind that they have committed any crime is when a court examines the evidence the Attorney General brings and what evidence they have themselves. Okay? And at the end of that process, then we can all say that they have done this and it's egregious and we don't condone it, we can't support it. But until then, what we have now is the Attorney General creating a false sense of guilt in the minds of people. Unfortunately, when these individuals, which I believe they can in court prove themselves innocent, if they ever succeed in doing that, in your mind, in my mind, they've been convicted already.
You also
That's the most unfortunate thing about this whole thing.
That this administration,
and in fact, you, the media, you should condemn that. You shouldn't condone. And sometimes if you call this person, or maybe you shouldn't even go. When you go, you should ask him questions about why he's doing this. The courtroom is there. Why is the Attorney General doesn't want to go to court? Now you see what he's doing. He will come and talk to you. You and I, there's an issue, I am involved, you are involved, come and talk to you, testify.
Plea deals are not illegal, are they?
I'm coming, but it's
part of our legal structure.
It's becoming one too many. Can't he find the evidence? He's not the one who told us that he has evidence. He has extensive research and whatnot. So why is it, I mean, so it means that Untumi can go to him and say, oh, I can tell on somebody, so therefore let me become your asset in finding somebody else's guilt. It's become one too many. Is that competence or incompetence? Maybe it's for Ghanaians to determine. You have a case against a number of people. Now you have decided to flip this person, oh, come and testify against this person. And then you can walk. What kind of justice is this? He's not interested in the person's guilt also anymore, just because he can testify against somebody? It's illegal, whatever, but what is the rational basis of that? It is an abuse. He's abusing the process. And my concern is that, you see, when these things happen and we don't condemn them, they fester. And the thing we all must remember is that after this NDC government, which I believe by 2029 they will not be in office, when they leave, other sets of people will come, okay? Be it the New Patriotic Party or any other party. But I believe it's the NPP. Now, people will learn from this Tomorrow, when I come to sit here, assuming this is 2029, January 7th or January 8th, and I sit here and situations like this is playing out, I will justify by quoting the NDC. I'll justify by quoting them.
So
and you won't have, yes, so I'm saying that it's a bad example.
You do same.
I'm not saying so. I'm just saying that it's a bad example that people can quote. And you were here. So we say, but why didn't you condemn it the last time? And what that is doing is that it's setting us on a path to the bottom.
Let's look at some of the allegations you're making.
Survive, and for it to survive, the rule of law must not be discriminated. It must be applied equally to everyone.
Let's look at some of the allegations you're making. You say some of your members have been intimidated and harassed.
Yeah, that's the same.
What scenarios play out?
You look at where they give you a bill, 800 million. Madam.
Is that intimidation?
Absolutely. What signal does he send? That, you know, we are on to you. They are creating a certain atmosphere of fear in the country. I don't think, and of course not generally in the country, but they are targeting the members of the New Patriotic Party. And that has been the case. All right? Beyond these arrests that we're talking about, even social media. Last time I sat here, we're discussing the cybersecurity
draft bill
that they have. They have this misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech, and the other publications, whatever bill that they are considering alongside the cybersecurity thing. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have. And then one of the key concerns that has been raised is that bill hasn't even gone to cabinet yet to get its approval.
But why are they putting it out there? But see, what counts is a thought behind it. The very idea that let's put something like this. And so what if they bring it and everybody say, okay, we'll go with it? Do you think that we'll still have a democracy after that? You can't speak. You make comments in your own social media group and somebody is on to you. What is hate speech? Who defines that? The same thing they did with the Chief Justice, where the determination, the petitions that were brought, and the president proceeding to suspend the Chief Justice on the basis of some misconduct. The idea is that what constitutes a misconduct?
But then your continuous defense of the former Chief Justice points to the fact that she may have been aligned to the party. Is that the case?
No. It's about democracy.
Is it?
It's about the survival of democracy. Look, I'm telling you that I've had a lot of conversations. I have friends in Tanzania, friends in Ivory Coast, okay, who are talking and saying that Ghanaians, you don't celebrate your democracy enough. Because what we have here is the envy of many. Our economic situations may not be the best, but what we have in terms of democratic freedom, the right of the citizens to select who should be their leader, president and parliamentarian, is the envy of the world, that an African country can figure it out this way. So it's not a thing to toy with. Okay, the conduct of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and his party is putting that in danger. Why? Because, see, the judiciary is an equal arm of government. It checks the excesses of the executive and the legislature. It is the province of the Supreme Court to say that what the president is doing is legal or not legal. So the president can take an action. The Supreme Court, through judicial review, can say that that action is not constitutional. And that is the power. And that the power of the judiciary is the power of we, the citizens, against a powerful executive. Today, President Mahama is almost a superior leader. He is actually a superior leader.
Yes, he stated on record that he's not a superior leader.
Do you think he wants to claim that? But the action he has taken to completely remove the head of the judiciary, unprecedented, has created a certain presence of fear in the judiciary. Do you realize?
But to be fair, procedurally, he was only acting based on recommendations
that is
by
the fallacy.
Committee set up.
That is the fallacy.
To probe the conduct of the former Chief Justice.
That is the fallacy that continues to be promoted. It is not about the process. Article 146 is clear. Okay? It is the motive that leverages Article 146. That's what is in question. It is political. They are determined they want to remove it. Article 146 is a passive provision in there that they are leveraging. The active factor in her removal is their motive, is their political motive. So if anybody, and that you see that's the NDC's argument. Anytime you say, oh, they follow the process, that's deceptive. If you follow that, you will not see the argument. The idea is that we want to remove you, and we're just leveraging this conduit to remove you. Otherwise, how else can they remove her?
So should the acting Chief Justice be sworn in when a future NPP administration comes into office? Are you saying because you are democratic, you would ensure that he maintains his position? You will not trigger the same article, even though there are petitions before you?
I cannot tell you that today. I can say yes or no. And you realize that the difficulty is what I told you earlier, that when you are charting a certain path, when you are no more, that path remains. It is up to posterity and others who come after you to say that that path leads somewhere. But at the least minimum, they will follow it and get to a certain point. Whether they will continue or retreat is left to time to tell. And that's the danger in what step they have taken. Would subsequent administration look upon their example and do it? In which case, we'll have a tit-for-tat situation. So it's just a matter of, okay, time, when another person comes, you take that off. I remember myself saying that if they ever swears in the Chief Justice after having removed Justice Tokono, whoever they bring as Chief Justice must be petitioned and removed as well. So we'll get ourselves in this cycle of undermining the judiciary, because if a petition is brought against whoever President Mahama is going to appoint, unfortunately, a very nice gentleman, Justice Bafo Boni, if a petition comes, he must act on it. And all of us will be in this country and see which Supreme Court will say, Council of State will say that one does not, that they don't find any evidence or any...
No, but there must be grounds for which...
About who tells you there won't be ground? There will be ground. There will be ground. And this one, there was no grounds on which basis they removed Chief Justice Tokono. There is no ground whatsoever.
Oh, the committee found out that.
Let me tell you,
there was stated misbehavior.
Hold on.
That's the report of the committee.
No problem. Firstly, just hold on. If the same president who clears Honorable Collins Dauda, okay, of spending 200 million, he clears him. Then he tells me that somebody has a Chief Justice, whatever, has, not that she approved for herself, but a process, a system approved for her to take somebody on vacation or transfer somebody, and so that constitutes grounds to remove her. Then I'm wondering what country it is that we're living in. You should not tolerate that, Fosti. I should not tolerate that, because it's creating a situation of unequalness in our country. What has Justice Tokono done to be removed for an amount miles less than what has been involved in Honorable Collins Dauda's perceived corrupt issue? But yet, President Mahama clears him. 200 million. What did you read in the petition against Justice Tokono that she has misconducted herself to the tune of $200 million? No. What's her crime? A crime is transfer somebody, is done. It's completely unacceptable.
As a political party, what do you plan to do moving forward? Will you be pressing charges so that we can see some sort of finality in court concerning some of the key concerns you have raised?
Which court? You should ask. Which court?
But they're the same courts that your administration was accused of packing with judges. You have enough judges appointed under the previous MPP administration. Are you saying that you have lost confidence
we don't have, in my view,
in the courts?
In my respectful view, we don't have a fair legal system or justice delivery system in our country. As we speak now, the Chief Justice, the former Chief Justice or Chief Justice Justice Tokono, has a case before the Supreme Court seeking judicial review of her removal. Okay? Would the court take it? And if they take it, you know, I know, maybe you will not admit, but I know the grounds on which she's been removed is not lawful.
Allegedly.
I'm saying that it's not lawful. You look at it, it's not lawful. A lot of skirmishes went into that. And I'm saying that in a country where the same president is clearing somebody of misconducting himself to the tune of 200 million, who was standing trial, he came and cleared that person. And come and tell me that somebody in I think $14,000 or something, which was approved for her to take a daughter or what? I mean, and you are telling me that that is so egregious, you remove the head of the judicial system of our country, a co-equal branch of government, on the same pedestal like the president.
So what will you do
so I'm saying
holding
that
these conferences? What would you do?
What can we do in a democracy?
Administration accountable.
In a democracy, what we have as citizens is our voice, which also is becoming a source of worry for the government. They are passing all sorts of bills to silence us so we can't speak. Our voice is our asset. Our collective voice is our strength. You see what is happening in the Americas? You understand? The people are speaking. The people are fighting back. That's all we have, our voice. And we are determined to exercise that right. And we believe that the collective conscience of our country will be pricked very soon so that this administration will realize everything they have done so far, they promised people heaven, but they are delivering hell. They told you they will stop Galamsey. Has Galamsey stopped? It's worsened. Their MPs are leading people to fight the NIMOs that they themselves, His Excellency, you can keep saying that English, but I'm saying that we saw the pictures. We saw the report.
The MP himself has denied his involvement in that.
Okay, well, he should go and prove himself in court. Okay? The point we are saying is that if he ever gets there, but the point I'm saying is that President Mahama and the NDC promised they will fight Galamsey. They told us at some point, firstly, that the MPP is in government, we have control of the national apparatus, and so therefore we should be able to end Galamsey. And that when they come, even in a week, they can end Galamsey. Where we are sitting today, Galamsey has worsened, and we have evidence of their people from the top, national, executive, functionaries of the party. They are engaged in Galamsey.
But if you have evidence based on what you say, why not go to the Attorney General, the OSP, provide them with the evidence? Let's see the process. Why are you smiling?
I like your confidence.
You do not trust them.
I like your confidence, but
it appears you lack confidence in
absolutely none. I mean, I've just told you that there are two sets of citizens in this country: the NDC citizen and the rest of us. The NDC citizens get the law applied to them differently. So when they come, so 150,000, and you remove it from his pocket and give and go if he wants to. Understand? And they walk away. They are on trial. President Mahama said, clear all of them. 7 people, just clear them, let them go home. Okay? But where is the MPP person? Give him 800 million bill. Okay? That's the situation we're talking about. So there's no hope. And I just told you, we don't have a fair system in our country anymore, Fosti. We don't have.
Richard Ahiamba is my guest here on The Pulse. We appreciate your time this afternoon. You're still watching The Pulse. We'll be back with more. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. Now, there is a looming public health crisis in Winneba. Residents say their taps are no longer delivering potable water, but danger. For over a year now, brown, muddy liquid, almost raw river water, has been flowing into homes. Many families are left with no option than to use the contaminated water for their domestic purposes. Others have turned to using seawater. The Winneba Headworks simply cannot clean what illegal mining has polluted upstream. This edition of Dear Mahama #StopGalamsey highlights the concerns of residents in Winneba. They are pleading with the president to fulfill his promise to end illegal mining.
In Winneba, water, the most basic need, has become a daily gamble. Taps run not with clean water, but with murky, brown liquid that stains clothes, and residents say now threatens their lives.
We ended our semester exams last Tuesday, and I went to church to give thanks to God for a successful end of semester, and to also seek for traveling mercies as I travel.
Meet Amos Indam, a level 300 student of the University of Education, Winneba. Today should be a joyous day. He just finished his semester exams and went to church to give thanks to God. But his biggest worry is not his grades. It is how to stay clean in a town where water has become a hazard.
The issues of water has become a threat in the life of the people of Winneba, especially these very jurisdictions where I live. Some of us have to resort into going to fetch water from the sea. The salt water, and of course I did.
Amos is not asking for miracles, only colorless water, the kind he once learned about in class.
But what I was taught when I was in basic school, water is colorless. But this very time, water has become something different, especially in the morning. When you go to fetch water, it will marvel you to see the color of water being yellowish, containing some particles, such that even if you wash with a cloth that is white, you end up staining it. So much afraid, so I'm not going to wash here. I'll take it home and wash. Because if I do, that will end its lifespan. So I'm not going to wash it here.
So where are you going to wash it? Where are you coming from?
I'm from water region. So when I get home, as long as I'll be here, so I'll put it when I get home anytime I wash. But before we started exams, I was admitted 3 times. And I think it's as a result of the water. Not that I drink, but when I bath, after finishing, I feel some scratches on my skin. And I want to believe it is because of the chemicals, mercury, that they actually used for the mining activities. It's what is given. And so it's having a greater impact. Not positive impact, but a negative effect on our health.
The Winneba headworks is suffocating. Silt choking its intake. Raw water so polluted it cannot be properly treated. And as the system gasps, an entire community finds itself drowning in uncertainty.
That's the reality. We source our water from one of the rivers in Ghana, and I think it's one of the rivers that major galamsey activity is also operated on. And so if the water is polluted, it is obvious that the water we get here will also be polluted.
So according to the law, and when you ask, they say now because of the galamsey, the water works people used to use so many chemicals before it will be neat.
Winneba is full of Amoses. Among them, elders who remember when water was not a privilege.
We used to get water every day. But now for some time, so for some days now, sometimes it could take us more than 1 week, there will be no water. We have to travel, go far. We need to go to Bonmense, get one river there, they call it Bonmense. And then we'll go fetch the water, and the water is not clean. Even though the one way will come from water works itself. If you fetch it, put it down for some hours, we'll see there's dirty, clay under.
Sometimes I call say, until you walk a cry and I fufu. Give me my Jimmy say, I'm going to say no much. Nay, on a son, if it's 90. There's a very Sabbath, there's a very in our call for back until I say, oh, Muja, soon may upon a chow, Ghana paying yes, so.
Go to ISO. As we will be watched now, it's red. So this is our pleading. So we are begging the government to help us. So we don't get more to say. The water is giving us much headache.
The people of Winneba are not asking for luxury. Just clean water to bathe, to wash, to live.
President John Dramani Mahama, I don't think we are winning the fight against galamsey. And if we want to win the fight against galamsey, we must employ radical means.
Our president, Mahama, I beg, when you want to come to power, you pledge yourself if you come, you will stop galamsey. But now, never get 1 year. It's almost 8 months, 9 months now. So we beg you to try to stop it, because that galamsey is giving us big headache about this our waters. So we are pleading for you. And we beg you for you to help us so that we can stop the galamsey people, so that we can get good drinking water to drink.
President John Dramani Mahama promised to end illegal mining. Here in Winneba, the water tells a different story. Residents say they do not want speeches, they want action, and they want it now, before an entire town is left unwashed, untreated, and unsafe. Emmanuel Jivenu, JoyNews, Winneba, Central Region.
Away from that, manufacturers of Tasty Tom Tomato Mix have revamped their operations with a renewed focus on quality and safety standards to restore public confidence in their products. The company says it is opening its doors to the public to witness firsthand the strict safety and hygiene protocols that guide the production of Tasty Tom products. There's more in the following report.
Quality Assurance Manager Tasty Tom, and it has announced that the company is inviting members of the public to visit its factory and observe firsthand the strict safety and manufacturing practices put in place to ensure the production of safe and high-quality Tasty Tom products. The initiative forms part of Tasty Tom's broader commitment to openness and accountability following recent quality concerns that were swiftly resolved in collaboration with regulatory authorities.
Every Thursday, we are inviting you all to Tasty Tom to come and then verify, see things for yourself, see all the quality procedures, all the quality measures, all the inputs that we put in place to achieve safe and quality Tasty Tom products. When you come to the factory, you are going to see a whole lot of good things. First is our hand washing procedure, where you are supposed to wash your hands thoroughly with soap and
Some consumers who visited the factory also shared the experience and after witnessing the manufacturing process.
If you are a Tasty Tom enriched tomato mix enthusiast like I am, I think that you should make time, come around, have a feel, see for yourself what you have been consuming. And believe you me, you would rebuild that confidence and trust that you've had in the brand over the years.
Away from that, German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier visited Ghana this week. He was accompanied by a high-ranking business delegation. To look at the background to this visit, we're joined now by our DW correspondent Hans Brandt in Berlin. Hans, how are you doing? But let's start really with some of the key issues that have come up. Why exactly is Germany focusing on Ghana at this point in time?
I think Ghana is seen as a reliable partner, as a stable partner, economically and politically stable in West Africa, in a region that as a whole is not necessarily seen as particularly stable and reliable. So it's important that Ghana has this role in its neighborhood. It's a relationship that has gone back for many, many decades. It's been a reliable and trusted relationship for a very long time. I think what one sees in the development of relations with Ghana is that increasingly there is an exchange also on matters such as science and education, scientific cooperation on issues such as joint vaccination programs, for instance, educational cooperation, and also an increased economic exchange, of course, which was emphasized by the fact that such an important business delegation accompanied the president to Ghana.
Now, let's focus on the issue of migration. I know that Europe is very concerned about people from West Africa moving into Europe in search of better future. What exactly is the findings you have about this?
Yes, migration is a central issue for European countries, for Germany as well, and something that is always discussed in all contacts with countries in West Africa, also in contacts with Ghana. There are many, many young men, especially that cross through the Sahara and the Mediterranean, or from Senegal, for instance, across the sea to European islands, trying to get into Europe and trying to find work there and to be able to send money back home. Many of these people are not really welcome in Europe, and many European countries try desperately to send them back home to their home countries, for which agreements are necessary with those home countries. That's something that Ghana and Germany have agreed on in the past. At the same time, Germany emphasizes, and Ghana emphasizes as well, that migration is not necessarily a bad thing, that migrants from West Africa, from Ghana, can be welcome in Germany if they bring the kinds of skills, the kinds of training that Germany requires, that Germany would welcome. This does not necessarily mean university education. It also includes trade skills such as electricity, for instance, electronics, or skills in care jobs, in hospital jobs, that sort of thing. That's something, an area in which Germany and Ghana want to increase cooperation and exchange.
Well, I also know that the German president is visiting other African countries as well. What prospects really are there for cooperation between Europe and Africa?
Yes, Africa is obviously a neighboring continent to Europe. They have centuries of contact, of cooperation, of joint history, not always necessarily a positive history, one has to say. Colonialism is a history that both share and that both have to overcome still today. But at the same time, Germany and Europe are very interested in doing trade and doing business with Africa. Africa is a huge market. It's a very young continent with a lot of dynamic young people, and as a result, a market that German and international companies are interested in. And the development of the African Continental Free Trade Area, the reduction of barriers between various countries in Africa, means that trade and exchange of goods within Africa is becoming easier, so that is becoming more attractive. At the same time, I think one must say that there is some sort of great power rivalry in Africa going on. China has been very active in Africa in recent years, and that is something that I think European powers, European countries don't always agree with, so they want to retain their influence and their contacts, their exchanges with African countries. It's against this background that the German president first visited Egypt, then went on to Ghana and further on to Angola, all of these countries, in order to increase these kinds of contacts and exchanges with the African continent.
Thank you so much, Hans, for your time joining us all the way from Berlin. And that's how we wrap up the polls. For more news, please log on to myjoyonline.com. My name is Faustina Safa. I appreciate your company. Good